Leslie, welcome to the Scenic Route Podcast.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to people who have a completely different background than what I do. I mean, I'm more in I don't know, a head person. So it took me
Mhm.
really a while to connect with my body. Um, and having as like a dance educator and someone with like a fine arts degree and dance degree, this is going to be really interesting. And I'd say we're going to dive right in into what probably will be the overarching theme today in this conversation is how we can learn to trust like our bodies, the wisdom they carry. And for some, and I mean, I'm not a dance person. Like when I, I, I don't know, maybe that's not the right statement. I did figure skating when I was a kid, but I don't know, it wouldn't come easy to me to think like I could like move this out or
Right.
how could we incorporate dance or simple movements to kind of like I don't know reconnect with our bodies. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited. So what is kind of like from your perspective when it comes to trusting our bodies with decisions? Was that always kind of like an easy journey for you? Like working with your body over the years, or you're like, oh, it was a rocky road.
Yeah, I would say the latter. I was like, as soon as you were like, was it always easy for your body? I was like, oh no, that's like a strong no. Um, that has come with like age and wisdom,
Mm,
which I think is something to like keep in mind for like everybody, like, which is so painful, especially when you're like, I want it now, like I want to be able to do the thing, but there is something good about that. But also,
but I mean, you're
in
not old.
training,
What I mean, old, sorry.
bless your heart.
Well, I mean, spill it, sister. How old are you? Do you want to spill it?
I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna be very brave. Actually, I just turned. Oh, if I vomit, I'll do it off camera. I just turned 40 this year, and I even saying that out loud is a little bit
Hey, you know
uncomfortable
what?
in my
You know,
body.
you know what? We're in the same fucking boat.
Yeah,
I'll
I was
turning
like,
40 this June. So
I've
this
just
is a
gone
safe
ahead for you.
space. This
Okay,
is a
great.
safe space.
But it's wild too because like I don't feel 40. I don't. Even just saying that word in relationship to me and my body, I think I'm just kind of like, it doesn't resonate. 40 still, I think, feels old, and you're like, a 40-year-old should look like this, or a 40-year-old can only do this.
Mm.
And I think where the disconnect comes is that I'm like, I don't feel like my body is a 40-year-old's body. Like I have kept it moving and I have tried to be more intuitive. And I look back at photos of my mom and my grandma when they were 40, and I was like, yeesh. And I'm like, I don't look like that. Like I don't, not yeesh. My mom is awesome. My
Yeah,
mom, I don't want to
I
throw her
know,
under
but
the
I
bus,
know what you mean. I know what you
but
mean. Like
it's just changed. So
maybe it was the
like
80s fashion or something, but yeah, I don't know.
and the hair, it was just, anyway, yeah. Um so yeah, being in my body hasn't always been comfortable, even though I've been in a movement practice like my whole life, and I've done other. I currently am doing other movement practices besides just coaching, which I primarily do now. So I don't dance really as much, but I found yoga, and I was like, oh, this is a space where it's
Mm.
very much like not a performative thing. I'm not
Mm.
looking in the mirror. I'm not getting that like critical feedback judgment from myself. I had a lot of like awareness about my body
Mm-hmm.
that came from
Mm-hmm.
from yoga that I like adored. And now I'm doing I'm more into working out and lifting weights. And I'm lifting weights, which is like wild and like so fun. And also proving to me that like I'm like, oh, I can do hard things. I think that by moving our body and becoming more
Mm-hmm.
connected with our body, it gives us proof to our logical brain that we can do difficult things.
Yes.
It's literally like it's like an experiment, and
Mm.
you prove to yourself what you're capable of, and then your brain goes, "Oh, I can do
I, I
that." So when you
I'm
come up
not
with
dead
something,
yet.
yeah, and even like when you come up with something that's like a brain teaser or a problem that you have to solve logically, you can look back at your evidence You're like, well, I just squatted like 100 pounds the other day. This is not a problem. This I can do. This I can figure it out. If I can do that, I can do this. And that's where I
Mm,
like the relationship of movement in your body to like being
mm.
able to conquer
And to
the other
slowly build
stuff.
self-trust in like, oh, if I can do
Big
this,
time.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
mm.
Because I think I'm a human who like really needs proof. Like I'm the kid who in chemistry I was like, why? But why? Why? Okay, invisible, I got it. Why?
Like, show
Oh, this
me.
is
Like,
yeah.
Adams, like, show me.
I live with a civil engineer. My husband is like in the
Mm,
science, like STEM realm. It's like blessed because he's a very accommodating. But I just was like, as soon as I understand why, I'm good to go. And so
mm,
when you've got that proof and you can look back and say, like, I did the thing, I can do it again, that is where the 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 strength to move forward comes, and you can like
mm,
trust yourself a little bit more each time.
mm. Yeah, that's really interesting that I never I never really made the connection with, oh, I bench this much, then I can also do this. I
Yeah.
guess my brain's not or hasn't been wired like this yet.
I am rewiring my brain that way
Yeah,
because it's super helpful. Like it's
yeah.
yeah, it's a rewire for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know this happens. I mean, for me, it's usually like tied to my chronic illness. Like I have endometriosis. So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
like if I could do this, then I'm good. Like
Yeah,
I'll survive. Like I'll be
right? And
fine.
I think that's really really important, and it's also how we build resiliency, especially because I work with
Mm,
youth.
mm,
Um and that's something that I felt I lacked, like I had to be perfect or I was trash. And so now I'm trying to build resiliency in youth and also myself, like at the same time, because it works together, where like the kids will be like, I'm nervous or I'm scared to do this. And I'm like, okay. And then if we don't nail it, if you make a mistake or something goes wrong, is like, are you going to blow up? Are you going to spontaneously
are you
combust?
gonna die?
Is the stage going to like explode? Like, are your mom and dad gonna like just like not take you home that night to your like safe, warm house where people love you? They're like, no. I'm like, right. So we good. And the mistakes help us learn. And like that helps reframe for them and
Mm.
myself of like, not a catastrophe. If you can do this, you can do that. It's
Yeah, and I
doable.
suppose you're never really done um working on this, right? You're never really you're never really done, right? I don't think there's a
No.
moment where you're like, I conquered that mountain, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, time to kick back and relax. I mean, I'd like to think that, but I think I know a little bit better. Um, yeah, as soon as you feel that way, you're like, oh, there's another mountain coming. Like
Oh yeah,
as
yeah.
soon as you're
Oh,
like,
God, yes. Yeah, you're feeling too cocky and it's like boom, wacky over the
yeah,
head. Oh yes. Oh
yeah,
God,
yeah.
yes. Karma's a bitch. You said an interesting thing earlier, that I'm kind of like, oh, I want to dive deeper there.
Yeah.
When you said, oh, the critical feedback when you were dancing in front of the mirror, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, like I mean, yeah, I said I did figure skating, which usually was in front of a mirror, except in summer school practice and stuff. But
Yeah.
it was in front of a mirror, so I imagine if you're doing ballet or jazz dance or something that's in front of these huge ass mirrors,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I imagine there are a lot of pretty nasty thoughts creeping up on you. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with that?
I didn't until now. I think because it is such a youth centric thing, and unlike soccer or baseball or some other sports, you aren't subject to looking at your changing body for hours at a time trying to
Mm.
fit a mold that
And
hasn't
I
really been
suppose a very
updated.
narrow mold, right? I think we have a big expectations or a big ideas of what it means to have a dancer's body or a dancer's
Exactly.
physique and look like a
Yeah.
dancer.
Yeah. Thankfully, the culture is changing, which I'm like very grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like it's the same with gymnasts or swimmers. A certain type of body type and the way you build your body will help you succeed that's just where it is. But for youth dance, like we got to train these, we got to let these kids know that like their body is just exactly perfect how it is, and it's strong and it's capable. But you're in puberty, you're like hormones are wild, and you're standing in front of a mirror for hours at a time every week with a whole bunch of other people who are also going through the same thing and having those critical thoughts about yourself, judging others, not out of a mean place, but out of a way to try to build yourself up to find some sort of confidence, some sort of stepping stone to stand on, or comparing, right? Like, oh, that person's leg can go that high, or oh, she's got this sort of flexibility, and it can be really, I mean, it is really detrimental, and it was something that really plagued me. It still plagues me, I would say, because the negative self-talk in whatever you do is so powerful, because regardless of which space you exist in, whether it's, you know, you aren't performing, or you know, you work in an office, or you work for a municipality, or what have you, you know, one thing that goes awry, one thing that isn't quite how you wanted it to be, that just, there's something about the strength of that Velcro that sticks to you. And you need so many more positive Velcro stickies to get to you.
That's such a good visual. Yes.
Yeah. It's like that one negative Velcro sticky is like the size of your
weighs
chest.
A ton.
And then the positive ones are like the size of a quarter. And you're like, great. Like, I need so many quarters.
Can someone like give me a quarter, please? Yeah. It's such a good image, because I don't know, we're so wired this way to put so much more emphasis and weight on the negative, and use it to reinforce the beliefs we consciously or unconsciously hold of. We're not good enough, we're not lovable, we are not XYZ. I mean, everyone has a different story of why they believe they can't have nice things, or don't deserve a leg that goes up that high, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
whatever it could be. And I think there's a weird programming, and maybe this comes from like a previous culture, socio sort of space that I think we're moving out of, I want to say, where by focusing on the negative, it's going to drive you to be successful. Like, if you know what your flaws are, and you can figure them out, like, you got to be really self-reflective. And don't get me wrong, I think being self-reflective is very important. In fact, I see some people who are like a little too, and I'm like, you need to reflect a little more. You got to like bring it down, because there's a happy medium to be had. But I do think that comes from a time and a space where we were like, find your flaws, fix your flaws. Like, that's how you're going to gain you know, success, which is true, but it became so heavy and so hard. That I think that sticks with some of us still, where we're like, oh, the harder I point out those flaws, then the sooner I can fix them. And what really just happens is you just fixate on them instead of fixing them.
And end up making them worse. Right. Oftentimes you're not actually fixing anything, or you're fixing that, but you're wrecking something else. And it's so interesting. I mean, this goes to say, this is kind of like very similar to when you look at it from a business perspective. Like, you're always like, oh, if you want to do successful marketing, you have to do like pain point marketing. You have to like tell them what all the things that hurt, so they go buy shit to feel better. Right. And which is very much like how our whole which is basically capitalism in a nutshell. And it's so important to be like, you know what, I actually have everything already, or I can tap into everything that to feel whole and to feel safe. And I'm curious, you said you especially are currently working with youth and like teenagers, and I mean, I remember my teenage years were, I don't know, they were weird. Like, on one hand, there were the Spice Girls, And then on the other hand, there was Nirvana, and I was kind of like in the
Yeah.
middle. Um, and I don't know, desperately didn't want to belong to a box, so I kind of made my own box, which was a box again.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember it was just weird, right? Like your body was changing, as you said, the hormones. How do you coach you or young women through this period, especially with dance? Because I remember we had a lot of very like competitive mean girls situations, and I mean that was in high
hmm
school. That wasn't then like
hmm
something like dance where you would stand half naked in front of each other. And like what, how do you approach this also when you see it goes into not just like let's say like a healthy sports based comparison and
Yeah.
competitiveness, but it's getting personal, it's getting,
Yeah.
how do you approach this?
With so much empathy and kindness.
Mm,
I um I like just like flip the script as much as I can.
mm,
I've also been teaching dance for close to 20, I'll say 20 years. So there's been a lot of trial and error and a lot of like growth. And what I've really recognized is I've taken some of what I needed, and I got a lot of incredible coaching when I was dancing, but it was also the 90s. And that was a very different time and space of like all the things, all the
oh
things.
god, I mean it was Kate Moss and Kellogg's Special K for breakfast. I mean
That's
it
exactly
was
right.
wild.
Like, I'm gonna have a great anyway. Yeah. So, there was a
I
different
love it that
space.
we're the same age and we have the same cultural references.
I know. When I like make a reference and like my kids just look at me, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh no.
they
I'm like,
go,
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Oh, the other day it was so bad. I mean, we're getting off topic. We're going back to topic. The other day I was making a reference to a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah. No.
And no, Pulp Fiction. Ah, dang.
Yeah. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm
Oh,
with you.
oh,
But
oh,
like the
yeah, okay,
kids have
okay, yeah.
like younger
And they
people have
were look.
no
I
clue.
got these blank stares, and I'm like, yo, I'm
Yeah.
not a boomer. I'm still a millennial. Like, chill.
I know,
Like,
right?
what's going
I
on?
know.
Holy crap.
I think millennial is
Millennial.
the new boomer. I know.
I
That's
know.
so
I
scary.
know. I
I a hundred
know.
percent I want to hide in my sweater as well. I hide
Oh,
in my
dear Lord.
sweater. My kids will tell you I just turtle. I can't do it. I have like a lovely shirt on today. But
Oh,
like
yeah,
I
please
just
don't.
like if there's things I can't see, I'm just like, I gotta hide you guys. And they're like, oh, was it bad? I
Yeah.
was like, I
Yeah.
mean, it
Mm.
wasn't great. Let's try again. Yeah, so I just wanna like I wanna flip the script to
Yeah.
give and to give what I wanted more of, to give what I
Mm.
now
This is
recognize that
such a
I needed
great.
more of.
Mm.
And this is a very like buzzy, hypey sort of thing to talk about, but this whole feeling of like, oh, it's a little gross to say, but like this healing the inner child, or just I don't even want to say healing. I want to say recognizing your inner child.
Mm-hmm.
It helps me as much as it helps the kids. So a
Yeah.
lot of compassion, a lot of empathy,
Mm.
um, and I always talk about this, and it's tricky, but the more you can build trust, and I mean like honest trust, and that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come from being just like a hype girl who's like, yeah, slay queen, like you're so great. I'm like, that's awesome, and it makes people feel good
Yes.
in that moment, but then they're always going to need that. When you can hype them up in a, I see how hard you have been working and you nailed it. I want you to recognize the effort you put in and then the result that you got. And I am so proud because you did not give up on yourself. That sort of coaching
Yeah.
in any space, whether it's like marketing or sales or whatever sort of like, you
Yes.
know, personal sort of relationships you're in, that is so much more valuable, and that builds
Yes.
trust
Yes.
between the two people. And then that
Mm.
person's able to go, yeah, I did that. And they can take like true um they feel confident, and it's not from a braggy or like a an over the top sort of arrogant sort of space, but it's
Mm.
also not like false humility either. It's really rooted in, I saw what I did, I put in the work, and I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
Again, circling back to like, then that's giving them proof. And that's how
Yeah.
I remind them, I literally, it's so funny. I was just at competition last night. I had two incredible dancers competing in the advanced category. They have never competed in the advanced category before. And they were psyching themselves out before they got on stage. They were like, we're dead. We're destroyed. We can't. And I was like, you guys really need to stop because this is not helpful. I was like, unless that's how you want to end up. If that's what you think is going to happen, you can have it. But I don't think that's true. You have awesome dances. You have worked very, very hard. And as we were watching the other dancers, I was like, your dances are totally different. They are so different than everybody else on stage. It's like comparing apples and oranges. We've all got the same chance. And that goes the same for people. Like, I'm an apple, this person's a banana, this person's orange, and then there's another passion fruit. Together we make an awesome fruit salad, but we've all got our own thing. We've all got our own strengths that are playing. And they went out. I could not believe they were up against kids who have been training for like 10 hours, 15 hours a week for multiple years. And these kids like just kind of cranked up to that this year. And they were so great. Like, didn't come last in any of their categories. And I was just like, see what you can do. Don't talk yourself out of that success before you go do it. And I was like, okay, so next time, can we like calm down a little bit?
Yeah.
Because we've proven to ourselves, yep, it's hard and we can do it. That's my big thing. I've really tried to take out the word but from my vocabulary. It was very, very tricky.
Yes.
But I go, yes, this is hard. And I believe we can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, this will be a challenge and we'll figure it out.
No, it is so true. Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And I love that you bring this up because it's one of the, I don't know, maybe one of the sentences I say to my clients the most. This and that can be true at the same time. It's not this or that. It's not black and white. It's not but, it's and. Because yes, it's hard and you got this, right? One doesn't negate the other or makes the other less true or less plausible or whatever. It's just and both things can be equally true. And I really love that you said, gonna lead from like a point of compassion and it really, this is really great leadership advice, what you said there. Like, I kind of look back and wish what I would have like heard or seen or received or felt, which is one, a really humbling experience, I feel, because I do the same whenever I have like a tricky situation, I don't know, that arises when, I don't know, something went wrong and someone's mad. I'm like, okay, how could I resolve this situation? And then I'm like, okay, if I were that person, how would I want it to have handled or to be handled? And sometimes well, there's still times I miss the mark, but I mean, it's
it's inevitable because we're not that person. But
exactly.
when you can kind of look at things from the other side of the coin, even if sometimes that might make you a little, it was so funny, I was just talking about this, even if it makes you a little bit distressed, like I prefer to send emails because it gives me a little bit of space, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to look at it from the other side of the coin. That person might actually prefer it to be an in-person conversation, even though it's difficult for me. And so, oh, wow. Sorry. I just kind of clicked into that. That's really what leadership is. So sorry. I just had like, you just literally saw me have like a light bulb.
Yeah. Like, I saw the penny drop, but I'm like, okay, I want to hear the penny now.
Like that is where I think, and I hope I'm moving a little bit more towards that every day, but that's where true leadership comes from, where you go, this would be the convenient and easy way for me. And this is the way I would like to do it. And sometimes you're going to do that. And see, look, and you've got to turn around and look at the other side of the coin and go like, I think that person would appreciate this more. And that's where the connection, and that especially when things are difficult, when you are sort of trying to repair something that maybe hasn't felt as good as you'd like it to, or there's a bit of a struggle, or you don't see eye to eye. I think that's very beneficial, and that's true leadership, where you go, you can step away from what you naturally would like to do and step into more power, look at it from the other side and say like, okay, let's come together and like figure this out.
Yeah, this is so true. And it's a really great example to really to live by, and maybe find a better way to like work with our differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to really be like, hey, and I know it's super stressful. Like, I mean, I don't know, the most high stress situations. I mean, I've been in corporate, but the most high stress situations are like, I don't know, when you want to get out of door because of a doctor's appointment and if you're screaming 2-year-old. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this close to losing it. But I mean, now looking back, every time there was this kind of situation, it really also forced me to step up my leadership game, right? Because there
Yeah.
was a default that I wanted to do. My default was to, I don't know, yell at my kid to just get the fuck
Yeah.
moving,
Yeah.
which would not have been helpful at all in the situation. But it took it. I needed space to kind of like have like just a split second to catch myself
Mm-hmm.
and be like, okay, what is actually helpful in this situation?
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, there were times when it was like, okay, canceling the plan because this is not gonna work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's an option, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, this is really, I think, yeah, you've said it right. It's penny drop, the true leadership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's always a work in progress because
Mm.
you want to be a leader because I mean, at least for myself, like I enjoy being around people. I like taking responsibility. I've always been that kid. I was always like, let's go this way, like let's do the thing. Like I'm the kid you
I'm
can
gonna
watch
organize the trip.
100%. I'm the
Mm.
kid on stage. We're all five. Everybody's following me. Like I'm like, I'm the leader. I know what's up. Um, and that's beneficial. And then you get around to like phase two, or even like, oh, maybe you can say like phase three, and you go, oh, hold on, like I've got to step back. I'm
Mm.
like, it's been really beneficial, and it's yeah, tricky and but also
Yeah,
really rewarding and fulfilling.
I mean, the leadership can go into dictatorship. So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think like that is something that I'm very conscious of, especially in performing arts and in dance, the very like old school, sort of like tall European, mean. I don't mean to paint Europeans with a broad brush because, hi, all clearly, that's my ancestry. But like, there's this sort of like, intense ballet instructor who's like
mhm.
got a stick and poking and saying
Yeah,
things and like throwing
I
people out
have,
of class
I
and like
already hear the voice.
right.
Like, I'm
So
like,
like, and the whole idea of like of leading through fear, and
mm,
I've just like completely thrown that out the window. I'm like, I don't subscribe to
yeah,
those um ways of doing things anymore, because I honestly don't think that they're super beneficial. And as
mm,
I've moved towards more of a, hey, I'm the leader, but I'm a part of the team. There's no pedestal for me to be on.
yeah,
I'm in it with you,
mm,
and we're going to work out it together, whether that's like with the staff that I work with or with my students. I'm very much like, whatever team I'm a part of, like I'm a part of that team.
yeah,
Um, yeah, to give more equity and to build that trust, and so that
yeah,
there is rapport, and it's
yeah.
not like I'm the boss and you're going to do what I say. And I think you can apply that to parenting. You can apply that to
Oh,
like,
your
leading.
coworkers, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And
absolutely.
so, and it makes for a more harmonious sort of space. And that even when there
Mm,
are challenges, like, hi, I work with teenagers all
mm,
the time. They do not want to take off their hoodies. I'm like, yo, you got to take off your hoodie. So you can do a bunch of jumping jacks and like high kicks, like get your blood flowing faster and like warm up, or take it off and freeze. Like find your, and
mm,
finding that respect of like, it really is like parenting. I
mm.
follow a lot of parenting like information because it's like so
I
beneficial.
suppose so. I mean, yeah, I suppose so. I have no
A
experience
blue
in
shirt,
parenting a
red shirt.
teenager yet, but I mean, yeah, I
Oh, me
suppose
neither.
so.
I just faux parent them within the dance
Yeah,
realm.
I
But like
suppose
even like
so.
the information for toddlers, you go, red shirt, blue shirt.
Oh
We're
God,
giving them a
yes. I
choice,
mean,
and it's the same thing.
oh yeah.
We've just put it over here on like
Oh,
15-year-olds.
100%. I mean, one of the books I recommend to my clients the most is actually a book on childhood development.
I love it.
And on
Yeah.
like how the brain develops and how the brain works.
Yeah.
And it's really just crucial information. And you got like, oh, you
Yeah.
gotta know this. Like this is
Yeah.
gonna actually like blow your mind. Um, oh, now I had such a good question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sometimes I have these mom brain farts where I'm just like, whoosh, and everything's
Yeah.
gone, and I'm like, what? But it will. Oh yes, it's coming back to me.
I love
I'm
it.
curious. I agree with. I mean, I'm going like full on stereotype when you said like the
Yeah.
mean German.
Hit it.
See,
Yeah.
now I say it. To me, the voice was like a mean German or a mean
Yeah. Yeah.
Russian. Um,
Russian. That is and we've seen it in
it's a
culture and
stereotype.
movies.
I mean,
So
it's it's perpetuated. I mean, yeah.
yeah.
And yes, I love that you said like believing in distributing equity and kind of like being a part of the team. That's also how when I was in corporate, how I led my team.
Mm-hmm.
And there were instances, I'm curious how you navigate this, where the lines between
Mm-hmm.
leadership, or parent and friend, leader and
Yeah.
team member gets
Yeah.
blurred.
Yeah.
And you kind of like have to put your foot down a bit on the leadership side. Like
Yeah.
how do you navigate this? How, I mean, especially, I mean, I know a lot of my clients are bless their heart. I love them. They all know this. Some of them are diehard people pleasers.
Oh yeah. Hi.
And when they lead teams, they want to make it as comfortable as possible for everybody, and very
Mm-hmm.
admirable. But sometimes they become a bit of like being pushed over. So
Yes.
how do you navigate this space?
Yeah. Hi. Feel like I'm a secretary of the People Pleasers Club, so
Oh, okay.
you can
Cool.
send your
Cool.
I'll get your membership
Cool.
card out to all your
Oh, perfect. Yes,
to
please
all your
do. Please
clients.
do. You should do a Slack group.
Um um yeah. So for me myself,
Mm.
which is also a bit of people pleasing, perfectionist, procrastination, self-preservation sort of space. I
Oh,
work
interesting
very
combination. I
I'm
love the
such a
intersectionality of
fun
this.
ball of yarn. Um
Mm.
but so my whole goal, as much as possible, is to be as proactive as I can. So really thinking ahead and being like, okay, where could these potential snags, where could these potential tete-a-tete sort of moments come
Mhm.
up where I'm going to have to go head to head and be like, yo,
This is
yes.
not gonna fly.
And yeah, and that's
Mm.
really where the yes and comes in. So the more you can use it, the better. Trust and respect, very important. Without that built up within that relationship, it makes it much harder to to put your foot down. Not even as a stomp, like because as a people pleaser, I don't really want to stomp around.
Mhm.
Um, and also setting up boundaries that feel okay for me, as a people pleaser. So like my clients do not have my personal telephone number. So it's like a hard
Mm.
line. You can contact me a myriad of other ways,
Mhm.
but that's my home phone number. My friends and my family have that.
Mhm.
And that's, and like maybe one parent, because like if I'm running late, I have to let them know that I'm
Mm.
late. Um, so when things come to a head, my whole goal is that I have worked hard enough, I have planned hard enough, we have created a safe space where everyone feels trusted and respected, so that when I have to say, I see what you're saying, and this is still the way it is going forward,
Mm.
it comes with a package of, I see where she's coming from. I might not like it,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
and that is a tricky part for me. Like I'm sitting with that in a couple of ways. got a student who really doesn't like her costume, and I'm like, we're gonna wear it, and she wore it. I'm like very proud of her. I'm like, we've sort of like combated with that, or like, you know, parents who obviously don't see eye to eye with some of the things that like I'd like to do, or my partner and I would like to do with the studio. And the best thing is the working relationship up to that point. I think if you can create safety, space, trust, and respect, so that when those things happen, you are working from a platform that makes it feel safe for the people pleaser or leader to say yes, and this is how it's gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my partner is a teacher, and like he's teaching like 10, 11-year-olds at the moment.
Yeah.
And always the first class he does is kind of like, these are the ground rules.
Yes. Yep.
These are the ground rules. Do not cross them. Like, this is the line in the sand. Do not cross that. Everything beyond that line, you do you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And surprisingly, not surprisingly, it works really well for the kids. Of course, you have those. I mean, if I were to be in his class, it would be me, who are like, oh, how far can I like tiptoe over the line until I get burned? But usually it's also helping us to have these like the line in the sand and be like, oh, okay, this is actually what is expected of me, and kind of like to have the expectation management and to know what is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's key. That is something that I do at the beginning of the season. So I'm like, and I think if you can take it, I actually had someone describe it to me this way. I thought it was so great, because I was like, oh, like maybe we don't have to wear, like maybe I can be a little slack on uniform, or maybe I, you know, and I had this, I can't even recall who said it to me. I feel bad I can't attribute to them. But they said, they're like, if you travel to Japan, do you expect that the people there are going to speak English to you? And I was like, oh, of course not. I'm going to Japan. And she's like, right. And like, are you going to be able to order, like, I don't know, like whatever your stereotypical, for me, we'll just go lean real hard into the Canadian and be like, are you going to expect them to serve you poutine when you go to, like, you know, a sushi restaurant? Be like, no, like that's, I mean, like amazing. But,
that's something
like,
I could never make friends with. Poutine. Like, no.
It's special.
No,
It's a special thing. Gravy and cheese
but
and
you know
fries.
what I do miss?
Like an ulcer.
Oh God, yes. Oh, you know what I do miss though, and I would really be like, oh man, at Tim Hortons sour cream glazed donut.
Yeah.
Like the old school buttercream sour cream glazed ones.
I'm a honey cruller girl. I'm not a Tim Hortons person, but the honey cruller, the Boston cream when I was a teenager was the thing, and now I'm like, well, it's too much. But
yeah, Boston
like,
cream.
I like the chocolate.
Oh,
but when you travel, when you go somewhere, it would be silly to expect them to meet you exactly for like
where
you are
at.
going into another culture. You are putting yourself into another culture. And that happens when we join a team, or when we lead a team. We need to know, what is our culture? We want to share, this is the culture, this is the expectations, like, welcome to it. And if not, like, I think that's super beneficial to recognize, like, yeah, this is a different culture. And but that also comes with education through kindness, of like, not enforcing the rules because you're a dictator, not enforcing the rules because that's the way it is and that's the way it's always been done, which is like my most hated phrase.
Oh
like,
God, yes. I'm like,
the kid who says why in me goes like, tell me about it. But it's like, here's the reason, here's the expectation. When you're exist in this space, this is how we function. And then when you go home, you can do whatever you like. That's for you. But like, in this space, this is what we're all working towards.
We gotta
Yeah,
have
it's
rules
great.
because and one of the rules or one of the visions is share that goal, and we're working towards
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
it's
yeah. And I've
mm,
find the people who are able to step into that, like, and um I don't want to say go along or follow, but the people who like work within that,
yeah,
I find they have greater success than the
hmm
people who don't, for whatever,
yeah,
there's lots of reasons, we forget this, or, life throws us curveballs. But the more, when someone offers you that like framework of which to work within, they're really do I most of the time I really do believe this. They're setting that forward for your success. Like, hey, here are the things that are going to bring you the best experience and the most success in this space.
yeah.
And I've seen that be true,
And I mean,
like,
that's
yeah,
also what you need to
dozens of times.
cultivate it as a trust, that people know that you have their best interests at
Mm,
heart, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I suppose you can go incredibly far. So I'm curious. We're talking a lot about like, okay, what does leadership mean? What makes a true leader? And I feel it always comes back to, and this is kind of like a hypothesis, and I'm curious, what do you think? The the better you know yourself, the better a leader you can become.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
Um, and I'll expand on that a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really, really true. And the more I've become comfortable with myself, and the
Mm.
more I understand about myself, it really helps me also share that. Like, I do share that with my clients quite frequently. Like, I'm hyper emotional, and I do tend to be a perfectionist. And I have turned those words from negatives to, I am very passionate, and I have a lot of love, and I care deeply about this.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
example for flipping the script. I love it. Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I really try not to get into like, oh, she's bossy. I'm like, yeah, I'm bossy. I'm a leader, man. Like, I try to really, because again, this whole thing of like, especially women in leadership, it gets very
You would
dicey
never
where we
call a
want to be
man
like seen
bossy.
as like,
Like,
oh,
it's
you're fake.
so insane.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. So like, I'm like, I am passionate, and this is my career, and this is my
Yeah.
heart, and this is what I've
And I
dedicated
want
my
you
life
all
to. And
to be
so,
able to do your best. And
yeah, yeah,
this is how I do it.
yeah.
If
And
this
then,
is not the way for you, then
yeah,
that's fine. But
yeah, yeah.
oh
And be
yeah.
open to trying it. And the more I learn about like the people that I work with, whether they're like parents or even, honestly, even just my family, um, and my students, the more I learn about them, the better I can relate to them, the better I can sort of um, tailor what I'm
Mm,
offering them, right? Because one student who really gets fired up, there I have two students who might see themselves as perfectionists, and one of them is really driven by competition, and like
mm,
that really lights a fire under her. So I'm
mm,
going to coach her in a different way. I'm going to use my competitive spirit and that little part of me to be like, okay, here's how you can reframe that to like really find success. And then the other perfectionist, instead of it lighting her up and like really like pushing her to succeed, it makes her shrink, and it makes her hide her natural gift. And so I have to use the part of me that like, I'm like, oh, that kid needs compassion, and that kid needs to
mm,
know how very special they are, and how
mm,
incredible I think they are already, regardless of how it goes on stage. So
mm,
like, finding those bits of yourself and then
mm.
being able to see them in other people, I think that's exactly where you're coming from. It's like, the more pieces you see of yourself,
Yeah.
then you're able to like relate those nuggets to the people around you, and it all builds trust and respect and community, and then yeah,
Yeah.
makes leadership a
Ooh.
little bit easier.
I love this. So let's kind of like I'm trying to kind of like put it in my words to
Yeah,
kind of like
please.
really have true leadership. True leadership, it needs to kind of like encapsulate the essence of what makes a leader not just effective, but also like inspirational and really transformative, right? Because
Mhm.
we have people who are inspirational and transformative, but not effective. And that's also not what we want, right? We need direction,
Yeah,
we need guidance.
yeah,
So true leadership, as we it's now kind of like talked about it in like the past almost hour, is like transcending the boundaries of authority and expertise, and having really
Oh,
this
yes.
enduring commitment to integrity, like being integral to yourself, to the cause, empathy and innovation, curiosity. You said it a couple of times, like being curious, trying new things,
Yeah.
um, and inspiring
Oh,
others to achieve their fullest potential, right?
yeah.
And not through like coursing them into things or dictating things, but
Yeah.
through leading with example and the courage to dream big.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that really, I'm like, I'm gonna go back and listen to that. Like, I'm gonna like write that down. I'm gonna like put
Do
it
you want
above
us
my
to cross
mirror.
stitch it on a pillow? Like, feel
I
free to.
do.
You can
I
quote
do.
me.
Cause like, yeah, it was, I will. I think the way you put that was like so, and I want to like cling on to all those words, but I also just wanted to let it resonate in me
Let it
and be like,
resonate.
oh,
Sometimes
oh,
it just needs to resonate.
yeah. That was really
I'm also
beautiful.
still like resonating. I love this. This is such an like, yeah, this has been such an interesting like dance through like what leadership means and how we can learn to, yeah, be a better leader and like show up
Hmm.
for the people. Like, even if you think you're not a leader, there are,
Yeah.
you're leading people in your life.
Yeah.
Full
And I
stop.
will say, I feel like I should put this caveat out there for anyone. Um, because I really, up until recently, I would say I really did not like the term. I didn't consider myself a leader. I didn't really want to like
Mm.
dive into that sort of, like I was a leader in that, like,
So you
I
want to
lead my
tell me about your
students.
self-image issues?
I know, right? 100%. But, I think as I've become more comfortable with who I am
Mm.
and I think finding my leadership style, and which
Mm.
is basically what I've kind of talked about. So like if it doesn't all resonate for everybody, I'm like, good, that's good because it's just mine. But like find the little nugget that does resonate with you and then build your own leadership style. But I really didn't like that word for a
Mm.
long time
Hmm.
because
I mean,
it
it
did
does have a
feel
negative
authoritative. It
connotation.
does. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just trying to flip the script. I'm like, I'm going to be a leader the way I want to be a leader.
Yeah. I can
And
fill this
yeah,
category however I wanted,
yeah,
or that
yeah,
label. And
yeah, exactly.
hmm,
Yeah. So even if you don't feel like a leader, that's also okay. Like 100%.
just find a different, find a word that resonates with you more
Yeah,
strongly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better closing to this episode. I mean, I have two more things before
Yeah,
we wrap this up, Leslie. Let us
absolutely.
know where people can find you online,
Yeah,
where they hang out, where
for
you can hang
sure.
out together.
I am mostly on Instagram. You can follow my dance journey, my teaching, and my sort of leadership little nuggets. It's literally just my name at Leslie Kuny over on Instagram. Leslie is with IE and
Mm.
Kuny is Kuny. So I'm over there being a giant goofball, and then
A
I also
fabulous
have
ball of yarn, or
yeah,
how would you?
yeah, yeah, a very multifaceted, multicolored ball of yarn.
Love it.
And I'm on Facebook as well. If you search Leslie Kuny Dance Educator, I'm over there. And my website, lesliekuny.com. It's a baby website. Be kind to me, but it also it also has links
This is a safe
to my
space.
YouTube where where I get to showcase my work and you can see my choreography and my
Ooh,
kiddos and
exciting.
yeah, watch some dance on YouTube. Watch them like not for reality television dance.
Yeah. Okay. Just for the joy of expressing
Yeah,
themselves. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Which is also, there's also, yeah. I mean, we could do a totally different episode on doing something just for the fun of it and not for like
yeah, yeah.
competition or whatever.
It's
One last
huge.
question. Oh God, yeah. One last question. I'm
Hmm.
always curious because I'm always kind of like, oh, I need new material. What book are you currently reading, or what audiobook are you listening to?
Okay, I'm technically rereading.
That's fine. I mean,
I
I do
know,
this
but
a
I don't
lot, which
want
is
to. I know because I really kind of ran out of books.
Unless you're like, I'm rereading Twilight, and
No, no,
I'm giving you a
no.
bit of a side eye, but I mean,
You should. I'm not. I've never read Twilight.
oh, I
Um,
did. I've been there,
Never got
but
into
I mean,
that. I really like autobiography. Can I just plug a
mm.
book that I think? Oh,
You could just tell me what you're
all
currently
right.
reading. I have
I
no way
will.
of actually fact checking this. So.
But for me and my authenticity, I was like, I don't want to. I
Hey,
am
that's
rereading
between
some.
you and your
That's true.
authenticity.
That's
This sounds
true.
like a you problem.
I'm rereading Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It's
Oh,
wonderful, but what I actually would really like to recommend, because I did just finish
please
reading it,
do.
is How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur. He is the
How to be
creator.
perfect.
How to Be Perfect. The T is on another line. When you see the cover of the book, you'll be like, "Oh, I get it. It's a joke.
Oh,
It's not a manual how to be perfect.
okay,
It's a
good, good.
tongue in
I
cheek."
was a tad worried for a split second. I'm
You're
like,
like,
no,
"Now what are you going to
no.
tell these
What
people?"
kind? What type of what version of Leslie did I just talk to?
Fair. No, it's How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur. He is the co-creator of The American Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and The Good Place,
Oh,
which if you've watched The
oh,
Good
the
Place,
good place. I love the good
okay,
place.
if you love
Wait,
The Good Place,
is
hi
Brooklyn
Bestie.
911 and the good place, is that from the same person?
Yeah, so Michael Schur was involved in both of them,
Oh,
and then
I did not know this. Oh,
Michael Schur also worked on The Office, the American version.
yeah.
He was Dwight's cousin Mose. That's really like, anyways, just getting hard on the beet farm. But Michael Schur is a television writer, and the book How to Be Perfect I feel like it's a companion to The Good Place. And he started writing it after he started working on The Good Place, being
Mhm.
like, what does it mean to be perfect? These philosophers and these like big thinkers of like our whole existence,
Yeah.
he breaks it down and he puts it in very when it was the most entertaining book to read. I couldn't put it down. And so much of it,
Yes.
I
This
literally,
is add to
and
cart. Add to cart.
yeah, 100%. Everybody, I'm never like, everybody should read this book. If you are in leadership, or even if you just deal with people on a day to day basis,
Mm.
it was so beneficial, because as I was reading, I would connect, because they'd be telling me about a different type of philosophy or a way of thinking or a
Mhm.
way of like functioning in the world. And I go, that's that person. So now I'm like, oh, I'm not mad at that person because I think they're like a ding dong. I'm like, oh, they're just working within this realm of like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it was like brain
Oh,
explosions.
I'm excited.
It, when I say it was like a textbook, and I would like highlight or like underline things, or like I'm going to talk about this concept with my students because I think it's so important that they understand this,
Yes.
so that I can't Michael Schur, if you want to send me money for plugging your book so much, that would be great. But also, I just think genuinely,
Yeah. Or
genuinely,
if you're
people
listening
should.
to this, you're also welcome to come on the Scenic Route podcast.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna like at Michael Schur.
Yeah, we could talk philosophy and the good place. I want to do this. I want
Oh
to do
my
an
gosh.
episode on the philosophy of the good
Yeah.
place. Like seriously, like
Oh,
I'm
that
down
show was
for it.
like so good. Yeah, so like I loved the show,
Mm,
and the book was such a great like expansion and like very like
okay,
realistic way of
love
looking
it.
at it, and very funny. He writes like
Mhm.
a person talks. Like I was like, "Oh, I'm just listening to my friend.
I love
I
this.
have a chit
Yeah,
chat." It was phenomenal. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal.
perfect.
Very
Thank you
fun.
so much for
Yeah,
sharing that book tip with
of
us. This
course.
is gonna go on the Scenic Route library page
Oh, awesome.
where you can find it. Leslie, thank you so much for being on a Scenic Route with me. It was an absolute blast to have you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really, really appreciate it. This was great.